Before we get into our biblical studies, one thing that I would like to bring to your attention is one of the methods in which I study, and that would be with the use of Hebrew word pictures. In the Hebrew language, there are 4 different categories of Hebrew language. We have the classical or biblical Hebrew, we have the Mishnaic Hebrew, we have medieval Hebrew, and the modern Hebrew. The symbols that are on the right side of the screen over here, this would be considered modern Hebrew. Hebrew word pictures use what is known as classical Hebrew, or in some cases people call it Paleo Hebrew. Now, this chart over here kind of gives us an understanding of the different types of Hebrew symbols on what has commonly been used throughout the era. This section here supposedly is pre-biblical Hebrew. This would have been the type of Hebrew that Avraham or Abraham would have used. Now, Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees, which is in northern Babylon. The Chaldean language in general was a pre-Hebrew language. From what I understand about Ur of the Chaldees, it is what Hebrew would have sounded like. Now, we know because Avraham came out of Ur of the Chaldees, when we go to the dictionary, the Hebrew dictionary, it is written in what is known as the Hebrew Chaldee language. So Avraham would have spoken a Hebrew Chaldee language. We also know that because Avraham moved him and his family from Haran to the land of Israel, Canaan or Canaan was inhabiting the land at that time. Therefore, the Hebrew Chaldee language would have transformed into a Hebrew Phoenician language or a Hebrew Canaan language or a Canaan Hebrew language. The Phoenicians and the Canaanites were the same people group. Many of you who know me know that I attend a yeshiva and I am training to be a Messianic rabbi. Yeshiva Shuvu is run by Dr. Rabbi Itzhak Shapira. In our biblical Hebrew, in our Jewish thought lessons, Rabbi Shapira goes over Hebrew word pictures and he uses a different source to cite each vocabulary word on what they actually mean. I grew up in Temple Aron HaKodesh in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and Dr. Frank T. Seekins introduced Hebrew word pictures back in the 90s from Rabbi Yosef Kolner and also Dr. Rabbi Neil Lash of Jewish Jewels. And you can find it on his own website at hebrew1.com/publications.html, or you can simply find it on Amazon. My loving wife, she found a book called The Wisdom in the Hebrew Alphabet. It's written by Rabbi Michael L. Monk, and it's published by ArtScroll. Frank T. Seekins' Hebrew word pictures seems to imply that this is before classical Hebrew. I am currently investigating the truth behind this. I would like to mention that I do trust both Rabbi Yosef Kolner and Dr. Rabbi Neil Lash when they were instructing me years ago. If they endorse Dr. Seekins' book, it's good enough for me. I mentioned these 3 sources, Rabbi Shapira's Lessons Through Yeshiva Shuvu, Dr. Frank Seekins' book Hebrew Word Pictures that was introduced by Rabbi Neil Lash and Rabbi Yosef Kolner, and The Wisdom in the Hebrew Alphabet written by Rabbi Monk, all seem to come to the same conclusion using different vocabulary words. For example, the letter Aleph, according to Rabbi Shapira over here on the right, he says it means champion. According to Dr. Frank Seekins, with the Hebrew word pictures, he states that the word means ox, power, or might. Rabbi Monk states that it means echad, or divine. Echad in the Hebrew doesn't start with an E, it starts with the Aleph, it starts with the letter A. So even though all of these interpretations of the letter Aleph seem to be somewhat different, they all come to the same conclusion. It all leads to Hashem, that all 5 of these men are looking for one thing. Who is Hashem and how do we get there? How do we interpret the Torah? Who is our Hebrew Messiah? And what does Hashem want from us? My goal, to add to the foundation of what I have been taught, is how we get back to our transfigured state as we were with Ish, as we were with Isha in the garden. If you have no idea who I'm talking about in regards to Ish and Isha, that have to do with Adam and Eve. That was their names before the fall in the garden. And we're actually going to get into that in this lesson. Until I hear back from the yeshiva regarding Dr. Rabbi Itzhak Shapira's sources, we will use Dr. Frank T. Seekin's Hebrew word pictures for our interpretations. So how exactly are Hebrew word pictures used? On the left side of the screen here, we have the Hebrew word Adamah. Aleph, Dalet, Mem, He. The word Adamah is the ground. In context, we would say Ha-Adamah. It implies the dust of the earth. If we look at the Hebrew word picture for each one of these letters we have, Aleph is the ox, strength, or leader. We can also condense this down to might or power. We have the Dalet, which means tent, door, or pathway. Dalet in Hebrew is door. Mem, we have water and chaos. And He, we have lo, behold, the, and it actually means breath as well. So we can loosely interpret Adamah as power, door, chaos, and behold. Now, during creation, what we see is the water was created first and the earth was created after. Basically, what we're dealing with is day 2 and day 3. Is it safe to say that the earth came from the water? This word seems to imply that. This word on the right, Adam, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, or Adam, it means mankind or man, and we know that this is the man that was in the garden. If we use our Hebrew word pictures, we can see something about Adam. Aleph meaning power, Dalet is door, and Mem is water or chaos. We can interpret the word Adam as power, door, chaos, or power, door, water. Both of these translations work in conjunction with who Adam was. He has power, and he has the door to water, which is in his blood and his body. Or we have power, door, and chaos, which is something that he himself now has to contend with. And this is also a name change thing, for his name used to be Ish. And we'll get into that a little later. As we study together, I will pull up definitions on screen, and the definitions will look a little bit like this. We have the Aleph here, and remember, Hebrew is read right to left. So we have the Aleph, and I have different forms of Aleph written here, or typed out. We notice that each Aleph has different Nukud underneath the letter itself. When I was learning Hebrew, this is how I learned to speak Hebrew, and how I learned to read it. We have the Aleph here, and we have Nukud in this blue bar over here. Each Nukud teaches you how to say the vowel. So we have a Kamatz, which is a short A, and a Patak, which is a long A, and so on and so forth. Over the course of time, when I was reading a Hebrew word in the dictionary, I didn't know how to type a letter out. So what I would do is I would simply go to blueletterbible.com. I would select the letter itself, right-click and hit copy, and essentially paste it in this little spot. And then drop down the size of the vocabulary letter. So because we already have an Aleph with a Patak in it already, we don't need this one. As you can see, I have every Hebrew Aleph Bet letter available. I don't have all of their Nukud. This is something I'm still working on. This particular document will not be made available to you. However, this one is part of the Tree of the Knowledge of Good and Evil, or Etz Da'at Tov V'Ra sermon lesson. If you would like a copy of the Hebrew word pictures image, we have 2 ways to go about it. 1, if you would like me to email you the PDF of the sermon, you can get it there. Or if you're just looking for the Hebrew Aleph Bet letters themselves and the legend that goes with it, all you have to do is Google search Hebrew word pictures. You will get an image. You can right-click on it and open image in new tab. It will show the image here. You can right-click on this image and save as for your own convenience. Thank you.